Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Board Games Unlocked, and Zach and I are doing a discussion over Witcher: The Old World, one of the newest games by Lucas Wojniak.
Sure.
That's what I'm going to go with. His previous games that he's done is Valhalla and Titans,
right.
Which I have run-throughs and or reviews on the channel, so you can go check my thoughts on those. But this is a game that was clearly highly anticipated due to the source material,
Right.
being The Witcher, and I guess in collaboration with CD Projekt Red.
Yep.
So that's really cool.
So, like, again, with the CD Projekt Red, all your miniatures are actually from the games.
Yep.
Your Witchers are basically like the armor sets that they are wearing are from the game.
Mm-hmm.
Names of cities are from the game.
Yeah.
It's pretty nice.
Yeah, so this the setting for this, if you've played Witcher 3 or 2 or 1, is not in that setting. Right. So you're not going to come across Geralt or Lambert or
Dandelion or anyone else in the world.
Yeah, so I guess if you're going from a love for those games and you're coming here expecting to see basically The Witcher 3 as a board game, you're not really going to get that. But what you can do is watch the Witcher animated movie that was on Netflix. That was pretty good. Right. That's kind of in this setting. It's before the sacking of Kaer Morhen and the Witchers being kind of isolated and hunted and hated. Monsters are running rampant, and then you're just killing them.
Right.
So, for me, I didn't back this game. This is your copy,
yep. And
luckily I was actually able to play it. And I didn't back it because while I love the source material, and my wife, Kat, has read the books,
right.
This designer is 0 for 2 for me.
Right.
Not like that his games are bad, but to me they're painfully average. Like
right.
Valhalla was kind of it was a deck battling game. You kind of wanted people to die to go to Valhalla, and they had a million minor expansions. And then Titans was glorified Risk,
right.
kind of in my opinion. So I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna deal with it. But this game is really good.
Yeah.
I like it quite a bit.
So this is my fourth play of it. It is definitely significantly better than what I thought when I was going to back it.
Mm-hmm.
So this is actually a gift for my wife's birthday. I gave her an option of 2 games, Madara, or this.
Mm-hmm.
She picked this because she loves minis.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, it was 90% of the minis for her.
Mm-hmm.
When I got it, it's like, okay, is this game just going to be one of those mini games where I'm just going to make super cool miniatures for my game?
Yeah.
But the game can be trash because everybody's going to buy it for the miniatures.
Mm-hmm. And the miniatures are fantastic.
And they're fantastic.
They're so good.
They're great. I was pleasantly surprised this game was actually halfway decent.
Yeah. Like, is it coasting off the IP? Is it coasting off its minis? Like, hey, look at our minis. There's no how to play videos. We have no real coverage over it. But the minis are really good. It's like,
Right.
Well, I don't like your other 2 games, so you're probably going to fail on this one and hope the IP sells it.
Exactly. It was significantly better than I thought it was going to be, which was super encouraging. I did go on the all-in, so we are playing with basically the full expansion of one of the sets, and then a couple others that have pieces thrown in.
Yeah, this one, I mean, I had the same hesitation. It's kind of like what can they do? Because what this game does, it's competitive, and it's essentially, it's a race, even adding this expansion, which I really like, it's still a race.
It is.
Like, I won this game that we just now played, and I almost thought it was very close. It was whoever won the next fight was going to win. My worry was I didn't meditate, so I was like, oh, did I hinder myself by getting 4 trophies from winning? 1 Witcher fight and 3 monster fights. And it's kind of at the very end, it's like, well, we're all tied now, so I don't have the time to go and get some tracking tokens and get some other stuff to prep for a final fight. I just kind of had to go for it.
Right.
And luckily my build worked out. And that's the really... some people might not like that. It, to me, it was a little weird of making it competitive. But in the setting,
right.
it works.
It works.
Because you think, well, we're Witchers, but you're all from different schools, and they're not necessarily friends. It's like, yeah, we're all Witchers.
Even in the source material, like, Witchers fight by themselves.
Yeah.
They're pretty isolated people.
Mm-hmm. You just have a
every
school.
now and then, they might fight together, but realistically, they fight separately.
Yeah, exactly. And, like... Because a lot of stuff that I have seen online has been solo stuff, and that was another worry. It's like, is it just going to be weird being competitive because the video games are solo?
Right.
So is this going to be just mainly don't even bother with other players, just play it by yourself? I don't know. I have not played this solo, and I don't think you have either.
No.
I can see this probably being really good solo, because you don't... The only thing you interact with another player is kind of who's going to go after what monster. Right. Can I snipe that from you if I so choose? Or do I want to fight you?
Right.
So overall, I think most of it is solid. It has a few weird things in the game, but for the most part, it works.
Yep.
So let's go ahead and talk about negatives. Do you have any negatives on the game?
Yeah, it's slow is the wrong word. It takes a lot of time for the weight of game that is.
Yeah.
We played for what? 3.5 hours, 3-ish hours with
this
teaching.
One, yes.
So it felt incredible. Well, with teaching, I mean, we played
3.5 hours. Then
3.5. That just for me, it was not heavy enough a game for. And I played this again. I don't think I've played it in less than 2 hours. At 2-player count to 3-player count, I haven't played in less than 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
That is a lot of time commitment for a board game that at the end of the day still has a lot of chance involved with it.
Because, it's like... Because people kept saying, oh, it's a deck builder. And they're not wrong.
Right.
But it's the slowest deck builder in existence.
Because you only get 1 card per turn.
You get 1 card per turn. It reminds me a little bit of Scarface, which I know you haven't played, but I did not like Scarface at all because it was touted as a deck builder area control game. Where you could essentially only get 1 card a turn to add to your Mafia deck as well. And it's like, don't call it a deck builder if you're not really building a deck.
Right.
It's almost like I would almost say it's like an efficiency deck constructor.
Yep.
Because every time you get a trophy, you cycle out cards. And since you only get 1 card a turn, you're basically... I mean, your deck is razor thin. Right. Which is not necessarily a bad thing. You don't want to sit here with your deck being 40 cards.
But at the same time, I wouldn't mind it if... I'll call it next negative is... Basically, at the end of your turn, you're pretty much set with how much you draw.
Yeah.
There's no... and that's where most deck builders are like, well, you can make an engine that just draws your deck quickly. Mm-hmm. Or an engine that is just powerful and just walks all over people.
Yeah.
Here... Nope. End of your turn, draw 3 cards. You must buy a card. Mm-hmm. You buy your cards by spending the cards that you have.
The 3 cards you just drew, yeah.
Which are your actions for the next turn.
Yeah.
So if you buy an expensive card like, oh man, that card is super worth it. On the way at there was +1. Mm-hmm. It cost me my entire hand, so I get 1 action next time.
Yeah. To move.
Yeah.
Because almost none of the cards do anything in phase 1 of traveling. It's all for combat.
Right.
So you're kind of like, you're never really using your deck in creative ways. You're essentially building for the fight.
Right.
Which some people might like.
Right.
I would say if you're calling this a deck builder, that's the loosest way, and that's just because there's no other term for it.
Right.
And I mean, because sometimes you might only be buying cards because you're like, well, my 3 cards happen to be 3 waters. Well, I need to go into a forest. I guess I'll just grab that one so I can actually... Because there was one time where it's like, well, what if you can't move? Right. You know? You could theoretically buy 1 card. I mean, that'd be your own fault, really. If you spent 3 cards to take 1 and realize, oh, I can't get to a water spot. So I guess I'll just do nothing on a race game.
Right. The other thing, again, it's time related. it's great and it's terrible. You have to take basically one of these cards because you're not going to fight enough times that you basically in phase 2 you have 3 options. You meditate. You can only do that when you're at level 5 for an attribute. Probably only going to do it once. You can fight again. You're only going to probably do it 3 to 4 times.
Yeah.
And then you take these story cards.
Yeah.
And they are good. They're flavorful. But they add a lot of time to your game.
Yeah.
Because you're reading off a story. Someone has to make a choice. And then you read off what their choice is. And that might lead to something else that they have to do.
Yeah. Which, for me, being a very story-driven campaign kind of player, I really like these.
Yep.
But they are completely random. These are... and these decks are not a negative for me, because they remind me of like Eldritch Horror stuff. Just more story, more flavor, more quests you can go on. But yeah, if your end game is like, well, I want to win, well, you can only do 3 things to win. None of those are you're. It's just kind of almost a whatever thing that he just had to add to try and kind of justify.
Well, to me, it does make me feel like it's the Witcher game because that like. You don't play Witcher if you don't enjoy having tons and tons of dialogue.
Exactly.
And that's what those 2 decks allow is that tons and tons of dialogue. And so it does give you, I call that feel of the Witcher video game. But to me, that can be a negative if I don't want to sit here with 3 other people at the table and I'm listening to 3 other people telling a story that I don't care about that has no progression.
Yeah, no bearing on anything that you can do.
Right.
Yeah, because my negative with those, like I love the fact that they're there, but there's 2 decks, like the Wildlands, and then a city, but there's no rhyme or reason why they're separate.
Right.
It's like, oh, well, you pick one or the other. It's like, it's not based off where you're at, because you can only travel 2 cities.
Right.
So, it's just kind of like, well, it would make sense if you had to stop in wild spaces along the way.
Right.
And, that's where I ended, so I have to take a wild event, like a road event in Gloomhaven, or a city event in the city.
Right.
That makes sense. But in this last game we just played, you were, like halfway through, you were like, which one do you want? I'm like, I don't care.
Right.
Like, just draw one for me, because I can't... look at these. Like, there's like 200 cards here, and it's like, I can't be like, well, I'm really low on money, so I'll do the city one because that's going to guarantee me money. No, you have no idea.
Right.
You have no idea what they're going to do. I like that they're choice based. You can kind of hope and be like, oh, you come across a merchant.
Right.
He's selling potions. Do you A, buy potions, or B, kill him?
Right.
Well, I guess
Kill him.
Yeah, I'll kill him. Maybe I'll get gold.
Right.
And luckily most of them are good.
Right.
If they do hurt you, if it's like, oh, lower your shield, but gain an attribute of your choice.
Right. So my biggest negative of this game has been, and every single time, is your Witcher special ability, which makes your Witcher unique. I played quite a couple Witchers now. For me, at least some Witchers, I know Bear is a little less situational, but like so mine, I have to spend a potion. I never got to the point where like, oh, I really want to just lose that potion.
Yeah.
And it didn't give me enough benefit that the potion that I was spending was benefiting me enough. Brett was kind of the same way.
Yeah.
You have to hit someone enough times, and then it's like, I get a look at 4 and discard 2, and he's maxed it out at that point.
That one's really good, I feel like, more against monsters than against players.
The Witchers.
Yeah, because Witchers is kind of like, yeah, you do thin their deck, but you don't really know what combos they're going for in their deck building, so it's kind of... But against monsters, it's just like, oh, great, yeah, let's see.
I played this guy because I wanted to see how it worked. I didn't ever use my special once.
You didn't, and I remember looking over, and I'm like, you have 4 potions. I figured you would have used them.
But they were all better than what my ability was.
Yeah.
And so it was like, I'm not going to use it.
Everything is kind of built as once.
Right.
And it is a little bit... If it was once per fight, which some are... like my Spalders that I got was once per fight. I can discard any card to take the top card.
Right.
But my crossbow was at the beginning. So it's just like, it's weirdly restrictive. And that's what this designer does, is he just makes weird decisions. Not bad decisions.
Right.
But weird, where it's like, why? It's my fucking crossbow. Why can't I use it at any time in the fight?
So, like, my wife was playing the Wolf the other day. And it is, you can use its special ability after you have a combo of at least 3 cards. It adds more attack value to it.
Okay.
but it's only once per fight.
Yeah.
And the answer is, why wouldn't I be able to do it every single time
Yeah.
I get 3 combos?
Yeah.
Just add the...
Because that's not super rare.
No.
I mean, because combos... and we'll get to the deck building and all that
Right.
because that is a obviously big part of it. We just kind of talked about a little bit of how slow the game is. But yeah, it's like... Because you can build Geralt in the way where he's just whirlwinding around, but it's like, okay, ha 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 ha, can't do that again. It's like, what do you mean?
Right.
Like, I mean, I kind of see it's almost he went like, he put in theme, a lot of theme into one thing, and then no theme anywhere else.
Right.
Because it's like, my armor, I mean, I use almost all the time, because it's like, and I built my deck specifically to be able to pump my shield up, have it go down, and then it's like, oh, now I need to draw. So, yeah, I wouldn't say that the abilities are, not that they're unbalanced, they're just not created equal, which I guess people would say is unbalanced, but I don't think they're versatile enough to be like, oh, my ability is vastly superior than everyone's.
I would agree. That actually is where I dislike is like, they're not powerful enough to be like, oh, which wish are you want? I don't care.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Really, what you're doing is if you're into the source material, you're picking the school that you just like the most.
Right.
Which for mine is the bear school.
Right. Normally it's the bear school for me. This time I wanted to try Manticore because I never tried them. And I was like, potions are decent, so let's see what he can do with potions.
Yeah, and I mean, like me, that ability would have been best for my playstyle because I don't usually go into an alchemy kind of build. But every time I did get potions, I was like, I mean, I guess it's good if you have 4 and bombs and you've used 2 bombs and 1 potion in the fight. You're like, well, I can't use any more. I guess I'll now use my ability. But they're super handy, like potions and bombs, especially if you have a tracking token to kind of get the jump on them, or against another Witcher. It's just like bomb, potion, but you're just chugging, and then you just like, and then now I'm gonna 18 damage. And it's like, oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, I prepped to kill you. So, I like that they're there, but again, it almost feels like they were an afterthought. Yep. Especially because your decks, you get 1 special card.
Right.
I don't think I ever used this.
I used mine once.
Yeah, it came in my hand multiple times, and I was more annoyed because it was yellow and blue, and I'm like, I don't really have those. My build was built around green and purples.
And so again, this is another thing, and like my wife actually made the same comment to me. For a game about Witchers and fighting, there's very little fighting you do.
That is
like
true.
You do a max of 4 fights, unless you just lose a lot.
That's true, yeah.
Like if you're winning, you're going to do 4 fights.
Yeah,
and that's it.
It's kind of hard to lose.
It is.
Like the very last fight in this game, in this 3-player game, Brett's not here, but I went into the lesson with no tracker and no weaknesses.
Right.
The only thing I had in my favor was my maxed out armor.
Right.
And I was like, well, I mean, it's either go home, like go big or go home, and I'll just see if I can win. I know what I have in my hand that might help me. But yeah, I mean, you could theoretically, like, there's no way of really knowing, but the one where you had all those tokens, and I was like, oh, I went down there to increase my combat. I was like, I probably could have won, but that's just shitty. It's just like, I know you've sitting there, been taking all these weakness tokens and stuff, and I'm just like, yeah, I'll just see what happens.
Right.
I get money if I lose. It's no real detriment.
Right.
So let's just see. Because then, if I win, you've wasted your entire game running around. And if I lose, okay, well, you still go and get it no matter what.
Right.
Yeah, you do very little fighting in this. Again, weird decisions.
Yes.
But so let's talk about the actual schools. We were talking about like the special abilities. They're there. They're very minor. I mean, theoretically, you can build around it, but again, these cards that come out, they're not like extremely versatile. They're mainly for combos.
Right.
in the deck building or for movement.
Right.
So it's not like you can get like a big potion engine. Oh, pull potions back, and then so that you can use your ability to like do extra stuff. Mine kind of allowed me to do that because it's like I'll keep raising my shield, and then whenever I can't raise it again, oh, now it's 0, and then I can bump it up. So what I don't like about this is you have your combat, which is basically how many cards you can draw.
Right.
Defense, your max shield value, alchemy, how many potions you can use, and then your special power. But then you have a kind of a weird meter, which is your level. That's kind of based off everything has to be that level before
it raises up.
Before you can raise it up. That to me completely works against any RPG style in The Witcher.
Right.
Like, I mean, again, I know theming wise you're not getting the video games, but the video games are all you have to go off of with when CD Projekt Red is involved. So it's like, if I want to go all in on defense and my special ability, theoretically I can. I can't. Well, no, I can't, because I have to get everything else up.
Well, no, because you can buy it always higher. You just can't get it for the free points.
Oh, gotcha. Oh, I see. From over here.
Yeah.
Okay, from those spots.
So you just limit yourself in free, which
I mean, if you get lucky on those cards and you're sitting with 30 coins, it's like, okay, I'll just buy it up.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, you could do that, but then, yeah, you're not getting it free for level. I just kind of find that odd.
Yeah.
And because money is pretty tight.
Money is super tight.
There are ways for you to get, like, the biggest jump that I've seen is 4 coins, 5 coins maybe.
And you feel rich after that.
Yeah, you're like, 4 coins? Wow!
Right.
And then you go and you spend 1 level, and you're like, well, I'm poor again.
Right.
Hopefully I'll come to this one location that gives me a free coin, and then you're kind of forced to go gamble.
Right.
To hopefully...
Or you go and do trails, but that's slow.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'll put it this way. You can gamble to try and get a lot of money fast, or you can do the slow, tedious route of just going from location to location to collect coins.
Yeah. Or go to location to location. You go to... I'm reading this upside down. Cidaris.
Yep.
To increase your defense, and you go down to Mordor, Modron to increase your combat. Then you come up here to increase your alchemy. Then you go Glenmore to increase your special ability, and then now you get to level up.
Right.
And then you just go in this big circle to do that, and then it's like, all right, now I'm ready to fight.
Right.
It's just, again, it's not bad. You are technically able to go all in on one thing, and then, get it maxed up. You can never lose it.
Right.
You meditate. That's a free trophy. You can only do that. You can do that up until you just can't win that way.
You just can't win that way.
Yeah, so you can get 3 things up and then just be like, I'm going to meditate each of my turns, and then just go fight. And if you're doing that and then you just go fight one whatever monster, you're probably going to win that fight.
Probably.
Just because you're guaranteeing, it's not like you're giving up anything on cards.
Right.
It's not like, oh man, I'm not buying any cards. Nope, I'm still guaranteed to get 1. Because how many cards do you have in your deck this time?
16.
I had 14. So, and I think you got maybe some extras just from those.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, so it's just odd.
Yeah.
It's odd.
So, kind of talking about cards and combos. So, one of the things that is weird but kind of cool is you do combos. So, cards are going to have these little tabs on the side of them that are color coded. So, there's 5 different colors in the game. Pretty much no card is going to have its color. So, you have to take a purple card to some other color.
Yeah.
Which is why, like, this card is great because it has all 4 other tabs to it. So I can't do another purple to it.
Intensive Igni?
I have Sweeping Arg.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but same difference.
Oh, I see. Yours actually has symbols on them. Mine doesn't.
Yeah. And so then you start creating these patterns where it's like, okay, that one takes a purple, so that's in my hand. So, and boom, 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 and you just keep building as long as you can make the tabs all work.
Yeah.
And that's cool. That's awesome. The downside is your deck, your hand is also your life.
Yeah.
So every card you play is you becoming weaker.
Which other games have done that.
Yes.
I have seen, before we played this, I had seen one written review with someone saying that, like, complaining about that. Now, to be fair, he also prefaced it saying he doesn't like deck builders, which it's like, well, this isn't really a deck builder.
Right.
But he's just like, he doesn't like the fact, he felt that you get punished when you're in combat by playing your cards.
And doing big, massive moves.
Yeah. And I see that. I definitely, that makes sense.
Right.
Like, because they go into a discard pile, and if you have no card in your deck, well, then you just have to go with off your hand. So if you take damage and you have no cards in your deck, you lose what's in your hand.
Right.
So it's kind of like, yeah, if I go for one massive swing, does 5 damage, but then I draw up, and now nothing's, and you're kind of like super weak from it. But Pathfinder, the card game, does that. And the Dark Souls card game does that. Both of those are actual deck builders, especially the Dark Souls one, where your deck is your life.
Right.
You take, 15 damage, 15 cards go into your deck. You're left with less options. It's a weird. You almost have to kind of tweak your thinking.
Right.
Not in a way of I'm being punished, but with a razor thin deck, 5 damage is a lot.
It is a lot. Now, I'll preface that a lot of times, not on every card, but on a lot of cards, on the tabs, they give you another ability by continuing that chain. Mm-hmm. So, yes, you are spending more cards, but normally you are getting more out of it than playing one card at a time.
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. It can feel even a little bit more punishing because it still is a deck, that it's completely random.
Yep.
That if you're just... Because, again, you can't really go into a theme because... It's not like, I want to go all into magic. Well, I'm going to take the magic cards. Well, you can't because they don't really combo off each other.
Right.
So you kind of have to be a jack of all trades, just like you have to be a jack of all trades with your skills.
Right.
So, but if you draw, and you happen to, like, if this was my draw, I have a blue with a green tab, a red, and then a gray. It's like, well, I guess I'll do one attack. That's 2 damage. I'm drawing 1 less, and then and every time you're drawing, you're actually kind of losing health. And it's like, oh, 5 damage. Well, shit,
Right.
So I didn't mind it.
No.
Like it
rewards you actually to attack really quickly and super aggressively.
Yes.
Because again, the monster's going to hit you for however much they're going to hit you. So the faster you can end that fight, you're just better off.
Yeah, and it does make thematic sense a little bit in the sense that a lot of the things you're kind of doing when you're traveling is getting weakness tokens.
Right.
Is getting tracker tokens. Because in The Witcher, which is a very bleak world, Witchers die all the time.
Right.
I think one of the sayings is that a Witcher never grows old. Like
it never dies in their bed.
Yeah, it never dies in their bed or something. Because it's like, why would you? Your job is to fight these beings, these magical creatures, a Leshen, the Crone Witch.
Right.
So
vampires, big bugs,
massive vampires, and then it's like, well, if you were to just run in there and be like, I got him, it's like, well, you're gonna suffer the consequences. And I do like that a lot.
I do too.
It's thematic. You can try. My Leshen fight was literally, if he had gone again, I might have lost. Only because. Not because I would have lost to the damage, but because I was running out of cards.
Right.
So then it's like, well, then you just... think of it as like your stamina.
Right.
Is the best way I can think about it. Like, if you're doing one massive, like, swing, you put all in your effort and you do, like, 6 damage, they don't have defense.
Right.
So you just get it across, it loses 6, it tries to retaliate, maybe it doesn't. But you just put in, and then you're like, fuck. Because you're an enhanced human, but you're not immortal.
Right.
Then you're like, okay, and then it just lunges at you, or does its special 3 attack, which is the player takes damage equal to the number of cards in their hand. Well, you drew 6.
Right.
So you're like, that's 6 damage.
Right.
Because the Striga just fucked you up.
Right.
It makes sense, but if you're smart, like a Witcher who understands these creatures, you go out and you get a weakness token. You track it so that you're like, I'm finding its lair. Like,
I know I need to put oil on my blades. I need to take these potions or take these bombs into a fight.
You prep for potions. You get some bombs. Yeah, hell, even one weakness token and a tracker token is an edge because it's like, okay, I know where its lair is. You do that in the video game.
Right.
Where it's like, I think against the Fiend, one of the main quests, you find a Fiend and you have to find its lair and when it's going to come back. And then you wait and then you're pumping potions and then it's like, okay, well... And I do like it's a little fiddly with the tokens, but I think it's nice if one person's kind of doing it, like, oh, okay, I killed that monster, then they kind of do it, or it's like I do it, so you can go ahead and take your turn, and then I'll mess with it. But it's a water token. That's where the Striga happens to be. This one's number 6, so one of the Striga's greatest strengths is her speed. Only a well-trained Witcher will be able to keep pace with her in combat. During the monster's first fight turn, after the monster attack card is revealed, choose the attack type.
Right.
If it's a special attack, you get to choose. And so having these is essential. You don't have to.
But it definitely makes fights easier.
Yes. Yeah, you get so much mitigation, and I can get behind that.
And so we really didn't do it, but... It's not hidden knowledge, so you can find your token. You can always look at before you go into a fight.
Yes.
And understand what your token's going to do, because there were a couple times where it's like, oh, it would have probably been beneficial if someone had looked, because like you have to play a purple card. Mm-hmm. Okay. I didn't go into this fight thinking I needed a purple card, so I didn't prep a purple card.
Yeah, but it should be open knowledge if you're a Witcher that, through centuries of
knowledge,
it's just like, oh, okay, we'll trigger it. Because these aren't like one-off beings. There are legends all throughout the land, so it's like, okay, well, this Witcher died, so we know how he died. They can teleport. Have this ready. The only time I did was, it's like, what's its special? We know what's its passive. What's its main ability that's coming in. I didn't really look at what the 4 did, because in this particular, we used the big monsters. There was no way of ever knowing if it was going to do those. Right. So it's like, well, I don't need to plan for that because it's most likely not happening.
But the passive is much more likely to happen.
Yes.
And I actually like that because it did make the monsters stronger than their base version game, but it balanced out by providing weakness tokens. Mm-hmm. So you kind of had this give and take of it's bigger, more epic fights.
Exactly. So, and that kind of goes with what I was about to say. You don't fight a lot in this game, but the fights you are doing, if you're doing it with these, they feel bigger. You know?
Yeah, I'll put it this way. At least for myself, like I was at least engaged every time someone was fighting.
Yeah, I was too. It's like, oh man, what are they going to do? Especially if like whenever you went and fought Brett, and it's like that's another kind of weird decision they make. It's just the winner of the fight gets a trophy, not if you're the attacker.
Right.
So it's like if you went and fought Brett and because you were one trophy behind, it's like, well, if Brett just happens to win, then he wins the game. And I'm like, well, shit. That sucks.
And I mean, my reasoning was I have to get a trophy. I'm 2 trophies behind and I can't get to a creature.
You couldn't get to a creature or you couldn't get to me.
Right. I couldn't get to
we were both in the same one, so you couldn't get to a creature to try and do it.
Right.
Yeah, it totally made sense.
And so it's like, is win or lose for me at this point. Yeah. I have to get 2 trophies.
Yeah.
You guys have no incentive not to go fight monsters here in the second. So it's like, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And I thought my deck was better than Brett's, honestly.
Yeah, your deck was probably better than mine.
Probably.
The only thing that might have worked for me was just my defense.
Yeah.
So I think if we were to have fought this game, it probably would have been whoever attacked the other person.
I think so.
If you attacked me first, I mean, no chance.
Right.
Like, because you'd have all the potions and stuff. But then if I did that, like, for example, if I did to you what I did to Brett, with this deck, I might have been able to hand it off because I did pretty good damage.
Right.
But I had the defense where it's like, okay, you're dealing 5, that whittles 1. Okay, I'm going to play these cards, bring my shield up all the way back up, and still hit you for like 4.
Right.
And I'm not saying with the deck building, it's not as like creative as I'd like it to be, but I was still able to feel like I was part of the Bear school, or at least what my initial plan with this deck was. I want to kind of have
heavy
consistent shields.
Yeah.
And it worked, and I put in some crazy
be
cards.
Thick, be powerful.
Yeah. Like, I got to do my pirouette. Like,
I used a critical hit multiple times.
yeah, my critical hit, because I wasn't really relying on card draw.
Right.
Just a 4 damage attack is a 4 damage attack.
Yeah.
And then if you play that with a card that lets me, like, for example, this, I know I have one in here. Like if I do a block, oh cool, I get 2 shield up, and then I'm gonna use my pirouette, or my critical attack, because that's gonna be 4 damage.
And it returns back
and
to
it
your
comes
hand.
right back to my hand.
Right.
I don't need to draw cards if I can do 4 damage every turn.
When you really think about it, when you have 16 cards and someone does 4 damage, that's 25% of your life is gone.
Exactly.
Like just instantaneously, you're 25% down.
Yeah.
And if we look at creatures, level 3s are at 18 cards and above for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking like 12, 10 to 14 for level 1s,
Mm-hmm.
12 to 16 for level 2s.
Yeah.
And then above that for level 3s, hitting for 4 is just brutal. You are just going to demolish.
It is. And that's kind of why... So that's why if you can get, like, in my case, if you can get your shield up to 4,
right.
well, then you just save 25% of your life.
Right.
Where your opponent can't do that.
Right.
At least in terms of the monsters. And I will say, even though I didn't lose a single fight, but it never felt like it was a wash.
No.
You know? Even fighting against Brett, where I initiated the attack and I was able to whittle the shield down before the fight, kind of chip him away.
Right.
It was one good hit
right.
away, because when you're decked, because you're always drawing, so even though I have like 5 cards in my hand, well, he just has to do 5 damage.
Right. But the game does reward, I'll call it the aggressor, on almost everything. If you're the aggressor, again, like the monsters, they can't come hunt you down. You only fight them. Even if you go into their territory, they're not doing anything to you. So realistically, you can prep for a fight as much as you want, in the sense of it is a race.
Yeah.
So as much as anybody else is allowing it to happen,
yeah,
you're just going to be able to do it.
Yeah. In a 3-player game, it almost just naturally went, like, you went first, so you picked up mountain.
Right.
And I'm like, well, he already has a lead on that. Brett went, he picked up forest. It's like, okay, I'll go for water.
Right.
And you kind of just let people do that.
Right.
Because there's always 3 monsters out in a 3-player game. It's like, well, let's all just get our own. You probably wouldn't want to do that.
Right.
But I don't know, it just feels stupid. It feels shitty to just kind of snipe someone's monster when you have not prepped for that monster. You're only doing that to be like, well, it's a race, so I guess I'll just try and stop you. I don't like that.
And that's one of the reasons I haven't played it yet. I want to try it. So there's an expansion in for it for the Wild Hunt. I believe it's supposed to be cooperative. You're basically fighting all of Iridan's army, all his generals. Cool. I can't remember all, like, the one with the huge mace that you go fight with Ciri in the game.
Yes, the bald guy.
The bald guy, the wizard that you fight later on.
Yeah.
Like, you fight all, like, there's 4 generals, with Iridan being the last. And so, I believe it's supposed to be cooperative, and that sounds fun to me. Because,
that does sound fun.
Now you're all witchers working together to stop it. You can play as mages. So
yeah, that one, that sounds super cool.
And apparently, because I watched a review on the mages, they're significantly different. So they are super high outputting damage with no defensive capabilities
I was going to say,
whatsoever.
yeah, all the mages, like the magic and the witcher, they're super powerful.
Right. But they are squishy as fuck.
Yeah, well, if you think about it, there's, I don't remember his name, Kat would probably know, but the guy, he literally has mage hunters.
Right.
That's like his whole thing, is that they just hunt mages. So it's like, well, clearly they're not that powerful if guards can get them and kill them. But yes, they're super, super powerful.
Right.
And it's really cool because you can play this. It's not like, oh, we all have to play mages, or we all have to play. It's like you can combine it. In fact, the Witchers get their magic. They know some, like Geralt, for example, knows little signs. It's like he knows Igni to do a fire thing, but it's like, that's like probably what mages teach their kids. Right. She's like, oh, look at that, that's cute. And he's like thinking this Quen shield is like, that's just saved my life. And it's like, that's adorable. Our 4-year-olds can do that. I think that's really cool. I almost think that the other way to play is the one big monster. That feels like a bigger race, you know, versus, because some of that, like, you know, the meditation or the Witcher hunt, it kind of feels like if these event cards go your way, if it's like, oh, get 4 gold,
Right.
like I'm over here like struggling like with
Right.
1, and I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna go here, get 1, then I'm gonna go gamble. I really need to win. I didn't win. Fuck, I'm
Right.
so mad. Then you're over there like, I'm gonna do this. Oh wow, I just get all the money.
Right.
Not that I mean, some of those will give you free attributes. It's like, well, if you have more money, therefore you have more ways to go pay for training.
Or movement or bombs. Money is your solve problems in
Yeah.
this game. And so being poor is kind of rough.
Yeah, and I was feeling it for a little bit. Not that it was like game over
Right.
when I didn't have money. I kind of had to finagle it a little bit, but I feel like the expansion where it's like everyone's hunting this one massive monster that's probably really hard to beat.
Right.
That would feel like, okay, you got to him first. Let's hope, and then everyone's like invested, like hope
Right.
you lose, because then I'm gonna try next turn.
Right.
There are a lot of ways to play, and that's something that he does, is he adds a lot of expansions to his games. Titan had a bunch, Valhalla has a bunch. This is, again, clearly his best game.
Yeah.
I was going to bring up something else, but I cannot remember. Whenever you do kill monsters, it is really cool that you get their trophy.
Yep.
The trophies are on the back of their cards. Okay.
Right.
They're regular cards. For the record, never play this way. Always use the cool, better weakness monsters, because
Which means you need the Monster Trail expansion.
if you can get no expansions, just get that one, because
Agreed.
this is fucking lame.
Well, and that it also includes the bombs. It includes more cards.
Oh yeah, you said what? This was like half, like that.
Yeah,
like,
easily half. Like
Yeah.
there's the Adventure Pack and the Monster Trail, the two that added to this, and I would definitely just continually have.
Yeah, because like it's like, oh, drowners. I mean, I know in the video game drowners are kind of inconsequential, but
Right.
it's like, I mean, there are still times where if you're playing on higher difficulties, they can swarm you, and then you're just like,
Or
see-
early on.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean,
But it's like, okay, this has 10 health. I don't know where the drowner one is. I think it also had 10.
it had 10 or
I meant
11.
the bigger one. I was going to compare.
Oh, they're the same.
They're the same.
Yep.
But the thing is this only has like its special ability. But what they
Yeah.
add in here is the counter or the passive ability, the weaknesses on the back, which is really neat. So it makes you feel like you're actually a monster hunter.
Right. Which is just kind of a general one-time ability
Yeah.
that they had.
And so when you kill them, because you're not fighting a lot, you're actually getting really nice, powerful abilities.
Right.
Like the last one I got was the Night Wraith. And you play this game a lot, and the Night Wraith comes out, just like in the video game, you know what the trophies give you as a
Right.
perk. It's like, the Night Wraith is probably the only reason I actually beat the Leshen, because I went in with less cards than I wanted to, but I got to roll a die, and it helped me draw more cards.
Right.
And what's also kind of cool is you and Brett went really high on combat for extra card draw. I was actually the lowest, and I was worried in a deck builder type game, because in most games, if you're drawing, you're winning. I was like, is that something you have to do?
It's the lowest. The only reason mine was high is because I kept finding monsters that were down here.
Oh,
so every
yeah.
time I went there,
You have to you just
It
spend
was
all your
free.
cards. Yeah,
so it was more like, I'm just going to do this.
yeah.
I agree. I feel like defense and alchemy are your top best options. Because again,
Unless you
defense-
know your deck is really good with combos, and you're going to get a combo no matter what you draw.
Right.
Which my deck was not built that way. There were times where I'd draw and I'm like, how do I make this work?
Right.
But I went off of equipment, and that's another thing I like, is you actually get equipment.
You do.
I was wondering if these were only going to be story stuff, and it's like gold or potions.
It's a little light on the equipment that I would want, but you do get it. And again, but my problem is, kind of like we said before, it's so random, and there's
Yes.
so many cards that you might get equipment, you might not. Like, one of the games I played, we had a couple quests. We never saw a quest in the entire game.
Really?
Yep. No little side quests. It was just straight up, get something, get money, that's it. There was no, go to this location because you agreed to help a merchant out.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I guess it is kind of like, okay, if you want those a lot, then you want them a lot. It does make them feel more special
Yep.
when they do pop up. kind of like the crossroads in
Right.
Dead of Winter. It's like some people, like no matter what, always just did it, and I'm like that kind of waters it down. I feel like
does.
it's always whenever it does happen, it's like, ooh, let's see what's going on, and it is kind of like that. But again, it is a competitive game, so whenever and Dead of Winter is not, so. It's like, oh man, I got this lucky thing that got me this crossbow just for a relatively free 2 damage. Oh,
Right.
well, okay. That's kind of cool. I mean, but I don't get a crossbow.
Right.
Maybe that's why he made it restrictive, because it's if I could do this every single time or
Maybe.
whatever, it'd be too busted.
Right.
So, I don't know. It's like, he has a few things that I do think are just bad decisions. Oh, let's actually talk about one of the major negatives. His rulebook doesn't have all the fucking rules in it.
Yeah, or at least I'm missing it. Because after fights, like that's on the player
Yeah.
aids, I'm not seeing it in the rulebook. Again, could be missing it,
Yeah.
but
You scoured that thing.
it's definitely not in the spot where it should be.
Okay, yeah, that's...
Like, because you have, when you defeat a monster or defeat a witcher, what do?
Yes.
I want to tell me to do everything that I'm supposed to do after that fight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we had a quest, or I had a quest that caused me to have like a special secret card that affected another player.
Right.
And at the very bottom, it was like, do not raise your shield value after the fight. And I was like, well, wait a minute. Like, there's nothing in the rules that says that you do that, so why is it specified here? And again, translation issues, there's some weird wording where it's like it
Right.
specifies something over here, and it's like, well, then since it's specifying, that means the opposite has to be true.
Right.
But then it's like, well, why would this be a card if the only effect is that you don't raise your shield value? Oh, well, on the player aid, it tells you to do that as your very first thing after a fight.
Right.
Huh. Oh, you also shuffle all your cards together after a fight, so you kind of always refresh. But nothing in the rules ever, at least it doesn't say it in the after the fight section.
Right.
So,
And again, could be missing it. I'm going to take a little bit harder look tomorrow on it, but
it's just kind of, again, weird.
It is.
Why is it not in the spot? If it's on the player aid in the after the fight, why is it not in the after the fight section?
Right.
In the rule book. Because that's a pretty important thing.
It is.
To be able to raise your shield up to its value.
Right, because then, like, after you get done with a fight, you're like, oh man, I'm weak. I have no shield. I have no potions. I have no bombs, or at least limited.
Yeah.
And being able to raise your shield up immediately just means, one, I'm now much more defensible if another Witcher wants to come and try to mess with me.
Yeah. And luckily, they did include something of a token. If Witchers fight, you can no longer fight in that city.
Right.
So people can't just like gang up on you, be like, oh, I kind of know your deck's not that good.
Right.
All right, we'll take turns. You attack him, then I'll go attack
Right.
him before they can even do anything.
Where they can go get more potions.
Yeah.
Where they can go, level up.
Yeah, they basically, it's a safe haven,
It
and
is.
and I like that.
Yep.
The art is fantastic.
Yep.
It's very, very good. I'm glad they didn't just take video game
Right.
screen caps and
But it's definitely, you can tell, it's The Witcher. Like the world.
there is one
It's
card I was
unique.
looking at that very much looked like Geralt. This one, the Pirouette.
Yeah.
Very much looks like Geralt, but I don't think it is.
No, I don't think it
this
is.
guy's missing an eye anyway. Yeah, all the cards feel really good.
Yep.
Very mature artwork, which I appreciate. It's a mature theme. Would have been really nice if they put in one card where it looked like Henry Cavill. Oh wait, no, who is it now? It's some fucking, it's Liam Hemsworth.
Yeah.
Who cares? Yeah. I mean, I guess we didn't really talk a whole lot about like the traversing and like what the different locations do, but there's not really the locations aren't really that exciting.
No, they're like every other board game. It's just go and get something from every time you go to a spot.
Yeah.
There are chances that if you don't plan your route out well, you're not going to get something. Or if you didn't think through enough turns ahead, like I played where, I went and spent money to raise my alchemy and then immediately went over to the west side of the map. It's like, oh, I could have gotten my alchemy for free.
Yeah.
I should have upgraded X, Y, and Z instead last turn.
Yeah, I will say, like, I'm kind of going to go back to the events. They do have one thing that I don't like, and Fallout did this. It was sometimes the quests that you get are your own.
Right.
Like, most of the time they are. But they do have some where a quest token gets placed on a location, and anyone can go do that. Fallout did that, and Destiny's did that. I hated them both because it makes no sense.
Right.
If I go to Kaer Morhen and I myself get told that there's some dude in Novigrad, no one else should be able to go to Novigrad and be like, hey, I heard there's some guy here.
Right.
It makes no thematic sense. It feels more of just like a big old cuck. Like, oh, hey, great. I'm right here. You're over here. I guess I'll just go there and take that from you. It's like, that's dumb.
Right.
That's dumb. Only I should be able to do that. I should be able to travel. And a lot of those are, like, but it's weird. Like, why make these decisions? Especially when a lot of the quest cards are you hold on to the token and only I can go there. Why make public ones? That's just bizarre to me.
Right.
But yeah, other than that, like, do you have anything else? I'm trying to think, yeah. So on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give Witcher: The Old World?
7 is probably my highest.
That's exactly where I'm at as well. Is a 7. Like,
I feel like for me 6 is a little too low.
Yeah, 8's too high because it's not like I'm not like wowed by it.
No,
it's more of just a. Well, this is his best game, but the bar was so low. For me, anyway. You might love Titans and Valhalla, and to that I would just say play many, many other games. But if you're in love with his designs, then you shouldn't be displeased by this. The length is long.
And that's what kills it for me.
Yeah.
It would be higher if the length wasn't as long.
I mean, you could theoretically change it to where it's one less trophy, but then that probably makes it to where it's way more random on who gets to do what.
Personally, I don't think it's the trophy count is the problem. It's the how you do everything on your turn just takes time.
Yeah.
So the very fact, like, you have to do this event before you buy a card.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but because there are locations that could affect these cards, it means to a certain extent the next player in line can't just start their turn.
Yeah.
If these were flip-flopped, and the reason why I know they can't be flip-flopped is because some of these cards either subtract a card from you or add a card to your hand. But again, it's one of those things where it's like, it's a weird cycle of events.
Yeah.
I want to buy my card, then do my end story. Because again, what can always happen is the player behind you reads your story event, so the player in front of you, next player, can only start their turn and going because it doesn't affect anyone.
Yeah. I mean, but then it's like, well, I have to choose the one card, and then it's like, well, I need to go, but oh wait, that location cycles cards, or I played a card that lets me go, and so I have to wait on you.
Right.
And be like...
And that's what I mean. That, like, there's just little things that could have sped up the game, and if that had been the case, I would be much more comfortable with a higher rating of it, but it doesn't. It's just too slow.
Yeah, I mean, I think he nailed the theme.
Yep.
Like, it is here. You are in The Witcher. These massive decks of story
is The Witcher.
are really well written.
Right.
I like that they're decisions.
Yes.
I like
that they're always decisions.
They're always decisions, and I like how they're not. I mean, they're not bad. I mean, the only one I saw was the one where the Drowner girl was like, "Oh, there's drowners in our basement," but the flavor text even kind of told you which one not to go with, but you could be like, yeah, I'll go with that. And I kind of looked at the other option. I'm like, oh yeah, that was only a negative outcome.
Right.
But they're mostly good. Every good thing I kind of have for this game is either followed up by, well, and that's in here. So there's nothing in this that's just like outstanding.
Right.
The best thing about this game is the fighting. But for me, it's like, well, if you're playing with these big monsters, these 4 things that they can do are almost never happening.
Right.
And also, the fighting is kind of, again, weird. Not bad, but weird, because another player takes their deck and is like, and they call out bite or slam. Okay, it doesn't really matter. Like, it was just something, well, how do I let the other players get involved? Have someone else just kind of, it almost feels like this needs to be a max 2-player game.
Right.
So if I'm fighting something, the only other player is involved versus some third guy just, jerking it or something. It's like, this is, like, I would only ever play this 2-player or solo.
Right.
Like, that way, because I'm certain your 2-player games were.
They felt a little better.
Okay.
Honestly.
I was wondering. I'm kind of seeing Witcher. I mean, it's definitely the best Witcher game out.
Board game.
Yeah, most people are saying best at 2 or 3. It's 41 people are saying best at 3, 36 at 2. 6 people saying it best at 4. 29 recommended at 4 though, and 38 people recommended at 1. I can 100% see that. I would love to. I would probably buy this as a 1 or 2 player game, but unfortunately, still, this isn't a game I'm now going to go out and get.
Right.
I'll just play the video game.
Right.
Like, if I really want to spend, because I could spend 3 hours in the video game just as well and be like, oh man, I got a lot done. This is amazing. So if the deck building was a little, if I truly ever felt like my deck was different than everyone else's because I was going for a very different strategy, that would have probably elevated it up higher. But you had 2 more cards than I did. If we were to actually compare cards, the symbols would still all kind of look the same.
Right.
You were able to do like an 8 damage attack, maybe a 9 at one point, which is insane. But I think I also had one fight that one-shot someone, like, just so it's like, okay, well, we're both capable of doing this.
Right.
Now I just got the jump on it before you.
Right.
And that's really it. So yeah, I mean, it's good. That's it. It's good. It's 7. Right. It's a 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
You have anything else?
Nope, I'm good.
All right. Well, that's our thoughts on Witcher, the Old World. Let us know what you think of the game in the comments below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you. Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.